Hello, hello, hello. It's been a while, but I am back, and Kira, you loved this when you were at home, so I'm going to show you how to make it. This is what I call fall chicken. I'm not sure what I called it when you were at home and loving it, but it's really quite easy. So we're preheating our oven to 350. In the meantime, I've brought a cast iron skillet up to a little hotter than medium. I've put avocado oil because it is a healthy oil and high heat. Good for high heat. As you can see, boy, it is really ready to go, so I need to get the chicken in. So I don't use flour anymore. You are welcome to, but this is, I don't use wheat flour. This is a mix I keep in the freezer at all times, and you'll find the instructions in the description, which I have recipes. Every single video in the description is the recipe for the dish that I'm making. So I have seasoned the coconut flour with salt, pepper, and paprika. And we're just dredging it. And then we're adding it to the skillet. This is chicken thighs. You can use legs. You can use breasts. I love thighs because they're just really good and meaty and tender. You can't really dry them out. Don't be afraid of the fat. Just get a quality free-range chicken. You know, just don't buy factory farmed chickens, which is what you get at the grocery stores. Go to your butcher. Find a good source. And we're going to brown this for a total of 5 to 6 minutes. And I'll be back. We're back. Nice and browned. Look at that. But they're still completely raw on the inside, so this is just a browning process, and it's multi-purpose. I'm gonna put these in the pan that I'm gonna use to bake this dish. We are going to come back and deglaze this pan. Okay, garlic. And this garlic, this is the best way I have found to peel a small amount of garlic. If you have found a better way, please, by all means, let me know. I'm all about sharing the most efficient way to facilitate the end goal or to get to the end goal, which is peeled garlic. This has some bad spots in it, so I'm taking them out. And then we're just rough chopping this. All we're gonna do is layer these ingredients on the chicken. So I'm going to prepare them all first. This is red onion. You can use any onion. I like using red onion just because there's additional nutrients because of the color. So I'm peeling it. Don't know if you saw, but I cut off the root end. These are refrigerated, so you don't cry as much. The juices are thick, so they don't spray up into your eyes. So I cut off the root end and then cut open the peel. And it was so much easier to peel off. Now, I'm going to slice. Let's see. 2/3 cup. Cut any way you like. Okay. So I'm just going to do really thin wedges. And again, the measurements are guidelines when it comes to cooking. If you love onion, add more. If you don't like onion, you can add less. And yeah, I think we'll do this entire half. Then roasted red pepper. And I buy it. Favorite brand is Mazzetta. And the recipe calls for 1 large roasted. This is in pieces. So we're just going to assume that what is left in this jar, because I did freeze this, and that's something you can do if you're feeding one darling daughter. You can freeze your ingredients that are left over. This might not have kept for the months that I chose to keep it. So again, it's relatively mushy because it's been frozen, so I don't need to chop it much. I do need to get that liquid sopped up. And then we've got fresh parsley, prosciutto or bacon, some bay leaf, tomatoes, and I like, oh, I'm gonna sneeze. I'm eating differently now, so it's very low carb. I eat very low carb, and anything that I can get organic, I buy organic. Okay, we are ready to apply the right word? Put it together. Let's see. And all we're doing is kind of evenly distributing. Well, that wasn't so even. All right. I'm trying to avoid setting the dish that's going in the oven down in the juice of the peppers. All right, there you go. Onion. Garlic. And yes, love, there was that much garlic in it when you loved it. It's 7 ounces of the tomatoes. I like fire roasted, just add some flavor. That's half this can. And the rest, we're gonna freeze and use in another dish. Bay leaf, it calls for 2 large. I've got 1 large and 2 not so large. And I have a cutting board that I keep separate for raw meat. This bacon is frozen, by the way, which is why it's tough to cut. But I highly recommend cutting it in at least a partial frozen state. It's really difficult to cut when it's all sloppy and greasy, fatty. Anyway, that cutting board is now sitting underneath my air fryer. So, we're just going to break up these bacon pieces. Distribute them throughout. Then we will go back to the stove, deglaze the pan. Now, the beauty of this dish, you can make it in as large or small a quantity as you want. Those were some really large thighs. That just happened to be they were just large thighs. That was all that I could choose from at Trader Joe's when I went yesterday. So, I went with them. But it's way more than a meal for me when you include the sauce that this dish is going to make. And then you serve the sauce over some kind of cooked grain. Now, I'm doing low carb. So if I would eat a grain, I would probably consume this on a feast day, and I would use quinoa or I think it's called forbidden rice. It's black rice, and it's really good. And I think you can get it, I know you can get it at every health food store, but a lot of the bigger groceries have it. So my local Kroger does not, but there's one nearby that does. All right. Meet you at the stove. Meanwhile, back at the stove. Let's see. This calls for a teaspoon and a half of Dijon. And typically when you deglaze, and all that means is you're going to take all of these good browned bits and chicken fat, combine it with some wine or some broth. We're also adding some Dijon. And you can see this is tomato paste that I have frozen. Not frozen now, but it works beautifully to freeze. You can thaw it, partially thaw it, whatever. Anyway, we're using a half a cup of good quality wine. And I recommend, any wine will do. I like Cabernets and Shiraz, so that was a Cab. Merlot. So we want this. Can you hear over the stirring? Now that the Dijon and the tomato paste is pretty much broken up. Sorry. Now that the Dijon and tomato paste is pretty well broken up, combined, we're going to let it come to a boil. In the meantime, there's a little bit of tomato paste in here, and I do not waste food, so it's going back in the freezer for the next time I need it, or next time I need it. There we go. It's boiling. that boiling action will thicken it slightly. Got a little bit more mustard left in my jar. And it's done. Turning off the stove. Moving the camera for so you can see the dish. And we're pouring the deglazed liquid over the chicken. Pressing the ingredients down a little bit to make sure they are sufficiently submerged, I guess. Just press down. And then into the oven it goes for an hour and a half. That's it. Now, normally I'd say this is the time to go ahead and cook your grain that this is going to be served over. And you can go ahead and do that. I'm not eating grains at the moment. So, but it's still going to be just as delicious. Out of the oven, and I realized I forgot a couple things. Parsley. This gets parsley, so I sprinkled parsley on it. And it needed a lid. So you bake it covered. And that, again, that'll be in the description with the recipe. So the parsley is optional, but it's loaded with nutrients. So I highly recommend it. And also, I said I wasn't eating grains, but I changed my mind. So you want to make sure you don't eat the bay leaves. So I'm going to take some of the sauce. And like I said, these are huge chicken thighs. So you get to see what the meal looks like. Yum, yum, yum.